Hello everyone, and welcome back. If you thought Sophia Choi's twisted little pill scheme was only meant to destroy Holly Jonas, think again. Because Days of Our Lives may be setting up something even more dangerous now. And honestly, this twist could be far more explosive than anyone expected. Because now, the chaos may not stop with Holly. It may be Tate Black who becomes the next emotional victim. And if that happens, the fallout could be devastating. What makes this storyline so compelling is that it is not just about a prank gone too far or another sneaky teen plot. This is the kind of soap setup that can spiral into emotional disaster very quickly. One switched bottle, one wrong assumption, one innocent decision, and suddenly, someone's entire emotional stability could collapse. And that is exactly why this story feels so dangerous right now. Sophia thought she had found the perfect way to destroy Holly without ever getting her own hands dirty. Her goal was not just to upset Holly for a day or two. It was to slowly make Holly seem unstable, unpredictable, and impossible to trust. If Holly kept having mood swings, emotional blow-ups, and irrational reactions, then sooner or later everyone around her would start questioning her judgment instead of questioning the situation. That is what made Sophia's scheme so dangerous. It was subtle, it was quiet, and it was designed to make Holly look like the problem. But now, the plan may be drifting in a direction Sophia never prepared for. The moment Tate gets pulled into this mess, the entire structure of her scheme starts to crack. Up until now, Sophia could probably convince herself that Holly's strange behavior would stay isolated, that nobody would look too closely, and that the blame would remain exactly where she wanted it. But Tate changes that equation. When Rachel Black handed Tate the skincare supplement bottle and passed it off as a gift for Holly, the moment may have looked harmless on the surface. That is exactly why it was so effective. Tate had no reason to be suspicious. Holly had no reason to think the bottle was dangerous. And Rachel may have played a bigger role than she understood, simply because she became the person who helped move the scheme forward. That is what makes this twist so strong from a story perspective. On Days of Our Lives, disaster rarely begins with something obviously evil. It usually begins with something small, ordinary, and easy to dismiss. A favor, a misunderstanding, a simple handoff. But once Tate starts taking pills that were never meant for him, Sophia's carefully controlled plan may stop being controlled at all. And that is when sabotage turns into real emotional chaos. Tate is not the kind of character people expect to lose control without a reason. That is why his reaction could be far more revealing than Holly's ever was. Holly's behavior has already been erratic, but the people around her may have been able to explain it away. Stress, jealousy, insecurity, romantic tension, all of those excuses can blur the truth. Holly's emotional instability may have looked troubling, but it still fit within a storyline where people could assume she was simply overwhelmed. Tate is different. He is usually calm, measured, and more emotionally steady. So if Tate suddenly starts snapping at people, overreacting to small things, or spiraling into anger that feels completely disproportionate, it will not feel normal. It will feel wrong, and because it feels wrong, it may force people, especially Holly, to stop looking at the situation as a personal problem and start looking at it as a pattern. That is where Sophia's plan may truly begin to collapse. Because the moment Holly sees Tate behaving the same way she has been behaving, the story changes. It is no longer just about Holly losing control. It becomes about two people experiencing the same kind of emotional distortion. And once that happens, the idea of coincidence starts to fall apart very quickly. His symptoms may do more than create drama. They may finally give Holly the evidence she needs to stop blaming herself. Until now, she may have been questioning her own emotional state, wondering whether she was the one causing the damage, whether her reactions were ruining her relationship, and whether everyone around her had already started seeing her differently. But Tate's personality shift could change that. If he starts acting in ways that mirror her recent mood swings, Holly may realize the problem is not internal after all. Something external may be affecting both of them. And once Holly reaches that conclusion, she may stop seeing herself as the cause of the chaos and start seeing the truth hiding underneath it. The most tragic part of this twist is that Tate may have no idea what is happening to him until real damage has already been done. Holly has at least been living inside the confusion for a while. Tate, on the other hand, could be blindsided by it. He may not understand why his emotions suddenly feel sharper, why his patience disappears faster, or why small conflicts start triggering outsized reactions. That lack of awareness is what makes his situation so dangerous. Because when someone does not realize their judgment is being affected, they cannot protect themselves from the fallout. Tate may say cruel things he does not mean. He may lash out at Holly or others at the worst possible moment. He may damage the very relationships he has been trying to hold together, not because he wants to, but because he does not realize he is being pushed emotionally off balance. And that is where this storyline stops being merely shocking and starts becoming genuinely tragic. A good person being manipulated into hurting the people he cares about is always more painful than a simple villain move. Tate may start looking harsher, angrier, and less like himself, while the people around him struggle to understand whether this is a choice, a breakdown, or something else entirely. That kind of uncertainty can create enormous emotional damage even before the truth comes out. It also puts Holly in a devastating position. If Tate starts melting down, Holly may be caught between feeling wounded by his behavior and recognizing that something deeper is wrong. She may be one of the first people to realize that Tate is not simply turning against her. He may be unraveling in the same way she has been. That gives Holly a much stronger emotional role in this story, because she may become the person who sees the pattern before anyone else does. And if Holly is the one who starts connecting those dots, then Tate may not just become part of Sophia's scheme. He may become its most heartbreaking casualty. Sophia may have been confident when this scheme began, but Tate's involvement could be the exact moment everything starts slipping beyond her control. As long as Holly was the only one acting erratically, Sophia could hope the chaos would stay contained. Holly could be dismissed as emotional, unstable, or overwhelmed. But the second Tate begins showing the same kind of irrational behavior, the story becomes much harder to manage. Because once the pattern spreads to Tate, this is no longer a private manipulation. It becomes a problem that attracts attention. If Tate has visible outbursts, if Rachel is pressed about where the bottle came from, or if Holly's bloodwork starts pointing towards something abnormal, then the pressure on Sophia could build very quickly. And when a plan depends on silence, pressure is often what destroys it. Fear can make a character reckless. Guilt can make her hesitate. Panic can make her overcorrect. Sophia may try to cover her tracks, control Rachel, or downplay what is happening, but every attempt to contain the fallout could create even more suspicion. The more urgently she tries to protect herself, the more likely she is to expose that something is very wrong. And that is what gives this phase of the storyline its real tension. The threat is no longer just what Sophia has done. The threat is what she may do next now that she realizes Tate was never supposed to be part of the damage. That shift could push her from scheming into desperation, and desperation is where characters usually start making their biggest mistakes. That is also why the idea of a tragic goodbye feels so ominous. It may not mean literal death. It may mean the collapse of trust, the end of a relationship, or the destruction of a bond that cannot be repaired once the truth surfaces. In some ways, that kind of emotional ending can hit even harder, because it leaves everyone alive enough to feel the damage. And on a soap, that kind of fallout can echo long after the secret is exposed. Even if the truth is eventually exposed, that does not mean the emotional damage disappears. In fact, the most painful part of this storyline may come after everyone finally understands what happened. Because by then, Tate may have already said things he cannot take back. He may have hurt Holly in ways that apology alone cannot fix. And Holly, even after learning that Tate was affected by the pills, may still struggle with the memory of what those moments felt like while they were happening. That is what makes this storyline so effective. The real danger is not only the sabotage itself. It is the possibility that the sabotage creates consequences that remain long after the scheme is uncovered. A relationship can survive a lie more easily than it can survive repeated emotional wounds. Once fear, doubt, and mistrust enter the dynamic, the truth does not automatically erase them. If Rachel talks, if the bloodwork confirms something is wrong, or if Sophia finally cracks, those answers may provide clarity. But clarity is not the same as healing. By that point, Holly and Tate may already be standing in the wreckage of something that used to feel safe. And that is where the real tragedy may land. Not in the exposure of the plan, but in the realization that the truth arrived too late to protect what mattered most. So now the biggest question is not just whether Sophia will be caught. It is whether Holly and Tate can survive what her actions have already set in motion. Because Days of Our Lives seems to be building toward a payoff that is not just dramatic, but emotionally devastating. One pill swap has already distorted Holly's reality. If Tate becomes the next casualty, then this story stops being about teenage jealousy and starts becoming something much darker, a chain reaction of damage that keeps spreading long after the original act. One bottle, one mistake, one secret that may already have gone too far. And that is exactly why this storyline feels like it could be heading toward its most heartbreaking chapter yet. So what do you think? Is Tate about to become the true victim of Sophia's scheme? Could Holly finally uncover the truth before it is too late? And does tragic goodbye mean the end of a romance? Or something even worse? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, do not forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest Days of Our Lives spoilers and analysis. Because in Salem, one small secret can destroy everything.